But let's start at the top. Kamari Lassiter. Now, he's playing for Georgia in the ACC. That's always a good thing. Hey, I got a defender for the Georgia Bulldogs. Well, that's got to be good. But we've seen, I'd say, a great many of these Georgia Bulldog players have gone to the NFL, and, especially with DBs. For whatever reason, Georgia DBs in the NFL have not worked out. But what do you like about Lassiter, and what, more importantly, do the Houston Texans like about him?
So I can tell you that when I was starting to talk to some scouts, just roughly about cornerbacks, I knew cornerback was going to be a need for this team. They weren't really in the market of getting a long-term deal done with Steven Nelson, or they would have done it. They felt content with bringing in some young guys that have some upside, CJ Henderson being one. Jeff Okudah was the name that I continuously heard throughout the offseason was going to at least be brought up in discussions, and eventually he signs a one-year kind of prove-it deal. But I knew cornerback was going to be a need, so I started asking about, hey, what's the thing that goes on with the likes of, corners that fit DeMeco Ryans' system? They said, you just need to watch Kamari Lassiter. You just need to go ahead and watch Kamari Lassiter, because that is plug-and-play edition. He is immediately going to flourish in this swarm mentality that they like of style. He's physical in press man coverage. He's great at the point of attack. He's not afraid to lower his shoulder. He can be a little inconsistent and grabby at times, but if you can work that out of you feel pretty good about the situation that you're going into. And he also is versatile. The thing that really stood out about him was he's an Alabama native, kind of like DeMeco, but at the same time, he also played a variety of roles during his time at Georgia. When DeMeco was there, he was an outside linebacker, then he shifted inside to inside linebacker, then he moved back outside to outside linebacker. Well, with Kamari, he started off playing in the nickel. That was his first big job when he got to Georgia. And then he was helping that team to win a national championship. And then they decided, well, we really like Javon Bullard, and we want to see what he can do on the outside. And we really like what we have with other guys like Keely Ringo, so we're going to try them around. So Kamari, we're going to move him to the outside. And immediately he flourished on the outside. And he was the number one cornerback in touchdowns allowed last season. So when I just watch him play, he is a lockdown corner. He has some inabilities when you ask him to play in zone coverage. But the thing that I think that you like about him going to DeMeco's defense is they play a lot of man. They love having those physical guys at the point of attack. They love attacking running backs, and they want guys that are willing to be those type of players, which is where Lassiter really shines. Everyone wants to talk about this 4.6 speed at the 40 time. I talked to some people around Georgia. They said it really wasn't that big of a deal. He was playing with kind of a bum foot. They knew about that going into the medicals. They felt comfortable with him as a playmaker. And the big thing was they said that his play speed is bigger than his 40 speed. And there's always that little bit of convoluted conversations that we always have where we have to sit down and say, listen, the film says one thing. The on-field metrics say another. What are we looking for? Do we want the film or do we want the numbers? Because you see those guys that will run a 4.29 40 like Xavier Worthy run a 4.21, and you'll say, okay, well, that's really great. He's really fast, but what if he drops more passes than he catches? Is that good? Or would you rather have a 4.6 corner that is going to make surefire tackles, is going to be able to play a variety of positions, and immediately fill the gap of what's missing for this team, whether it be in the nickel or on the outside? And so Lassiter and Kool-Aid McKinstry were the two that continuously came getting brought up in conversations. Kool-Aid went one pick before. And so when you saw Kool-Aid come off the board, it felt like in that moment, if they weren't going defensive line, and there were some names that were available, but nothing that really stood out. You knew they were going cornerback. It felt like Kamari Lassiter was always going to be the pick. And lo and behold, now he gets to be that lockdown cornerback wherever he is for this defense long term. And they love him down there. And I thought it was really funny that, again, and I was the guy that actually asked the question that went viral. He had no idea that DeMeco went to Alabama. And now it's like, oh, well, now we get to see in Georgia versus Alabama. I really hope that they have that rivalry inside that locker room.
Oh, yeah, Bullock, really good size, which is what you like about him. What I like about him as well is he's got the size, he'll lay a hit, he's got ball skills, he's a playmaker back there. And I know USC didn't have a great defense, but so what? Obviously, they see something in him, and talk about how when you put Lassiter back there, Bullock, Stingley Jr., and Petrie, that's a good starting point for a young secondary. as they're starting to, of course, rebuild back there. We know Ward is getting on. Akuti, you just don't know about, but that's a good starting point with those 4 guys.